Hi, and welcome to the Soul Mazal Emunah series. I am your host, Rabbi David Katz. We are continuing along on our path in the Mazal book. That's what I call it. It actually has two proper names, either the Encyclopedia of Mazal, and that is a Hebrew word, by the way, for those that want to be critics. And in fact, you would pronounce that Encyclopedia Le'inyonei HaMazal. So no, it's not an English book. And the proper name is Oitzer HaMazal. All right, let's go. Ma shehedvarim nirim. Sorry, we did that last time. False alarm. Af im al pi. Hamazalis nira shenigzar al adam gezeira. Yesh efsharut la adam levatla o yedei tfila u'schuyis. Ein hakoy chavim poyelim be'etzma ela hakoy chavim heim ke'ein. Bavoa shesham izgala ma shegoizer hakadosh baruch hu al ha'adam hein be'es lidasoi ve'hein behemshich yemei chayav. All right, Justin, you want to translate for us? Jacques, you want to translate? One or two? Does anybody want to translate? One or two? Going once, going twice. Hello? One or two. Hello? No? No takers? Jacques? No? Hello? Hello? One or two? All right. I guess I'm elected. Even though Jacques didn't vote. For some reason, Jacques has not cast a vote of... There, Jacques voted too. Af imal pi. Even. Af im al pi. Im al pi. Af im al pi. Usually it's af al pi. Here it's af im al pi. Even if, according to the Mazalis, nira shenigzar al adam gezeira. Af im al pi Mazalis. Right, the constellations. You know, last night when I was stargazing in Modin, 6 votes, very good. Last night, I was stargazing in Modin. And would you know that the Big Dipper actually spelled out David Katz is going to Chas v'Shalom have a flat tire tomorrow. Jacques, do you believe that story? I'm telling you, I went outside, I looked up in the heavens, and the Big Dipper stars repositioned themselves, and it spelled out in Swahili of all languages, David Katz, on this date tomorrow, you will suffer a flat tire. Justin, can you believe that? Right, I'm telling you, I was dumbfounded and stunned. Never in my life did I see the constellations make a gezerah on another person, let alone myself. So that happened last night. Yesh efsharut la'adam levatla o yedei tefila v'schuyis. So if that happened to me last night, we see that it's possible that a man, I am a man, and I was geyser this thing, can nullify the gezerah through prayer and merit. So Justin, to solve your curiosity, I've been praying all day long to not have a flat tire. And then the constellations reconvened again and said, okay, David, we let you off the hook. Do you believe that story? It's a fantastic story. The stars planned on giving me a flat tire, then I prayed very hard, and then it went away. But for the sake of the stupid analogy, you do understand the mashal, right? That even if all the astrologers in the world said those born with a Pluto in retrograde and all those funny things in astrology, and if you go outside tomorrow, you're going to lose all your money. Whatever it is in Mazal astrology talk, lower Mazal, and it's just clear as day that there's the gezerah against you. That it's not the word of God. You can pray and you can have merit to nullify the gezerah. The stars do not function with autonomy. It was God that decreed on you. And if God wants you to know the decree based on stars and constellations, or if God, as the master of creation, wants people in Brooklyn to paint a billboard sign that says David Katz is not welcome here. And it was a miracle. I don't even know anybody in Brooklyn. All these different things, right? So the people in Brooklyn don't have a vendetta against you. It's God has a gezerah on you, and the creation serves God. How that comes about, ask God. God is the master of Meister Bereshis. And it was just revealed because God allowed it to be revealed to you what God is doing to you. And this is all based on what you have coming for you from the time of your birth. That's why astrology looks like it's very accurate, as if it's just the cosmos. But what it is that God looks at your soul at the point of conception, and then the cosmos are kind of like the Kli Makabel. They receive from God what God tells them to do to you. So God is saying the Justin Becker program is destined for wealth and greatness, but not until he's 40 years old. So the creation's got to hold Justin down till 40. So when Justin was 20 and he had a big business venture and it fell through. Right, Justin? And you're like, man, it's so horrible. And then all the people are like, we have signs that say Justin's not welcome. And Justin says, why? Why? And you will never know. And everywhere you go, you just fail and fail and fail. And then at 40, all of a sudden, heaven opens up. And now there's billboard signs saying, Justin, where have you been all of our lives? So God programs creation. And those created things don't even know why they're pro or anti-Justin. Maybe it's you're the demographic, Justin, of the guy who made the voting block in this community go sour. They were one vote away from majority, and then you strolled in at the last minute, and the guy running the operation hates people like you, and he said, yeah, it's just spray paint, go away, Justin. Whatever it is, they have their own method of their madness, but God has it programmed. You get what's coming to you from God as he employs the creation. One or two. One or two. Hello, type it. One or two or two. Or one. And this is the rest of your life. So when the astrologers look in the heavens, they say, wow, David Katz, born on May 30th, 1978 at 9:21 in the morning. I know for a fact that was when Pluto was in opposition to Saturn. And people like you are very cranky. And I noticed that you were quite snappy with me today, Mr. Katz. So if that were to happen, and people that have that kind of wisdom, God allows them to have that wisdom, right? They have astrological wisdom. She looks at me and she says, wow, were you happen to be born at 9:21 in the morning on a Tuesday? And I say, yes, actually I was. And she would say, it's very interesting. I was just reading that people with that data, they're all going to be poor until 34 years old. And then at 34 and one day old, they win the lottery, whatever it is. So God allows the lower creations to have that wisdom to let you know what's coming. But don't think it's actually astrology. It isn't. It's God makes his will known through the Shituf powers. The powers carry out God's will, but your job is to worship God and not the Shituf powers. Besif hey sham kasuv gam imal pi hamazal is nira shenigdar al adam gizera hoyo amarechis akol kavim hivu aso shakash baruchu. The stars and the orbits are the workings of God. Yesh if sharu la adam levado gizera zoy aginei dvilim zoyis hakiyagosh baruchu nigra keil shaddai. That through prayer and merit you can nullify the forces, and that is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called Keil Shaddai, the God of creation. That God runs the creation according to his will and desire, and he can change it as he wants to. Nothing is stopping God, not even your little astrologer friend. Nimsa eifo she'koikvim einam boilim asmem es mikre adam chas v'shalom. Hold on. Nimsa eifo she'koikvim einam boilim ba'atzmem es mikre adam ela ke'eim v'shisham izgala. Wait. Nimsa. So the fun of Nimsa Eifo Shehal Koichavim Einam Poilim Ba'atzmem Es Mikre. Okay, I can figure out the Chas v'Shalom. Yeah, they are not lone agents. The astrologer doesn't say, I just don't like Geminis. So let's just say Geminis are all going to be burned today. Right, Jacques? Type 1. You can't say that this little astrologer has powers like that. They don't have power by themselves. So if a little astrologer says that Geminis will burn, that means chas v'chalila that God wanted this Gemini to burn for whatever reason, and the little astrologer was given the power to say it and articulate it. But it didn't come from her, it came from God. It has nothing to do with her. The whole rest of your life. So when you get a dose of reality from the agents of Shituf, you got to know it's God pushing his will through Shituf. And you just have to experience reality in the Shituf world. When you lose reality and you gain the fantasy of Shituf, obviously God goes away as well. Now, do you have to believe and listen to what the Shituf astrologers and people say? No. But sometimes what people say comes true. I don't know if this is a good example or not, but let's say we're at a billing office, and Justin, you thought your rent was on time. And the little girl working at the desk with a little Sagittarius necklace on, and you said, wow, are you an astrologer? And she said, yes, I am an astrologer. And she said, I'm sorry, Mr. Becker, to tell you, you messed up on the rent date. Rent was due last week, and we are evicting you. You would say, shucks, that's horrible. And she would say, yeah, it's pretty horrible to be a Gemini. I understand. Geminis are always forgetting this stuff. So then you go home and you look up on Google, do Geminis forget stuff? And then you see all the astrologers like, yes, Geminis often forget stuff. And you'd say, man, it's horrible to be a Gemini. I hate being a Gemini. But you'd have to know, it's not that you're a Shituf Gemini. God created you born in May or June. And there are certain characteristics that God puts through the Bria, and this astrologer picked up on it, and by real Mazal, you were led to this billing agent to give you this message. So you see how, number one, it is reality from God. She gave it over through Shituf Kalim, but you got to realize it is directed to you in a certain way. But it has nothing to do with Gemini and forgetfulness. It has to do with yet you're a person that messes up dates based on the time you were born, when God looked at your soul and said, this one will mess up dates. Type 1 or 2 if you cop that. So you're always messing up dates, but then God hides your flaws and you don't even see it, and you never realized, I am a person that messes up dates. And then you came home and your wife said, did you remember our anniversary? And you said, no, I can't. I just didn't even realize that our rent was past due. And your whole life is a little trail of all these little things that you forget about dates. And then your daughter came in and said, Dad, did you know that it's ballet today? And you said, no, I thought it was yesterday. And there's another one. Justin forgot the dates. Then you went to the grocery store to buy salad stuff. And you said, do you have lettuce in? No, Justin, that was yesterday. Tomorrow we get the next shipment in. Ah, shucks. And all through this fictional Justin's life, not our Justin, everything he does is date-oriented, right? So it's very related to the astrological world, not in terms of why is it happening, but the astrological people would pick up on such a flaw. It could be any flaw, right? It could be if a guy has a problem davening. He always misses mincha. And his client is a fervent Christian. And he says, what time is it? And the guy says, 5:45. And he says, oh, shucks, I forgot to daven mincha. And he would say, well, Jesus always says we should pray to the Lord at a good time. And you'd say, okay, your God says that, fine, but I missed mincha. Right? So it was the Shituf message to give you the message from God, hey, Moish, make sure you daven mincha. And our friend Moish is always missing mincha. And for some reason, all of his religious circles that are not Jewish are always telling him, well, Jesus always said, pray in a good time. And I never miss my prayers. I go to church 4 times a day. And his Muslim friend said, I never miss my 5 prayers a day. And his whole world is telling him, we never miss prayer. And Moish is just always missing mincha. Type 1 or 2, if you understand how God's Ratzoin can come through Shituf, but it's not Shituf, it's actually God, and the Shituf powers help God express His will. Your job is to not then run to church and say, oh, well, I'm Jewish, but Jesus said to pray at a good time. No, it's to go daven mincha in the right time. So the rest of your life, God will send you the message. I guess that's the purpose of Klippa, right? To make a concretization of God's messages coming to us. And then we all suffer this plight, and then we're tired of Klippa, and we don't want to be reminded of mincha through church people. So then we have our Eov moment, and we say, I'm not budging until God Himself tells me. And then if you're Zeiche, remember we said prayer and merit. You either pray a lot or you get the merit of your Job moment when God says, hey, Moish, go daven mincha. Then you had it directly from God, and the way that story was written, Moish never, ever, ever missed mincha ever again. Type amen for Moish. Ach bevoye zoi eine megalat hamid esa emes. Ach bevoye zoi eine megalat hamid esa emes ki al yedei tefillah v'zchuyos v'vat. Again, what does that mean? Hey, v'henshek yemei chayav. Ach bevoye zoi eine megalat hamid esa emes. So, all my church friends that I work with, right? I work in the building, and I'm a yid, and I'm davening, trying to daven, and all of them say, like, well, Mr. Rosenzweig, you're always saying how you missed the prayer. We always pray in church. So, Mr. Rosenzweig, he has to now ask himself, I'm in Klippa, right? I have a supermarket, and I employ all these Christian kids because there's a church next door to the supermarket, and they're all telling me about Yeshu, and I'm just trying to daven mincha. So, are they right? Is the Shituf right? So when they interpret my problems davening, as I express this to my coworkers of other Shituf religions, and then they interpreted my problems as gezeras from Shituf. Are they correct? Do I actually suffer a mincha problem? Maybe not. Maybe God just wants your prayers aside from mincha, but to change your mazal and the merit to counteract the gezerah. It's not that you are problematic, Moish, and that you have a problem with davening mincha. It is that God himself wants to hear your prayers. And God is saying, Moshe, we're going to make it hard for you on mincha. Because of Maisa Bereshis, right? Okay, here's the mashal. Moshe Rosenzweig owns a supermarket in Goyeshaville, type 1. And it's right next to a big church in the middle of Chicago, type 1. And in the supermarket, there are a lot of Christian teenagers and young adults working there. And it's a nice community. They're probably secret ger. They don't know that yet. But he's a nice ger guy and ger workers and potential. And they're Hamish. They talk. He's good with his coworker. This is a guy who loves the non-Jew. And he's always missing mincha. He's always getting upset. And then they're saying, like, well, Jesus always says you should pray on time. And he's like, yeah, okay, go do your Shituf. I like you, but this is not Shituf time. I got to daven mincha, right? So now he feels guilty, and he says, man, like, why is Shituf telling me to daven mincha? Do I actually have a mincha problem? Do I have a pagam in my soul that I'm missing mincha? And is it because I'm working with all these church people? What is the story? So what it could be, says the Sefer, that God, through Maisa Bereshis, let's say the minyan near the grocery store, davens at 1 o'clock p.m. And that's the only minyan in that neighborhood. So, again, let's paint this picture, right? The church people working there, they have to go to church at 12:30. And they run the store. Rosenzweig just pays the bills. So at 12:30, they got to go to church for some kind of youth convention thing. So they all put in their orders for food at 12 o'clock. And the delivery guys come between 12 and 1, and they never get out of the supermarket till 1:15. And there's always a problem because their workers are in a rush to go to this hip mega church. And Rosenzweig never sat to consider Maisa Bereshis and God's Emunah, right? So he never understood that the work that they're doing between 12 and 1 is always shvach, and the rest of the day, they work very good. There's no rush. But as they're running out the door, they always forget stuff, and every day Moish is not davening on time because he's always 15 minutes late. And mincha is one of those times of davening, either get it or you don't because it's so quick. So Moshe realizes that it's not me. It's got to be God is making this happen. It's not that like I'm in this situation of klippa and I must be problematic. So I got to pray and ask for merit, and I realize it's the church people that are not doing their job. So I daven to God for an eitzah. And I realized God gave me wisdom, and I can't tell the church people to do their orders at 11. And then they'll get it done by 12. And then they'll have time. And you know what? I'm a good boss. I'll give them a half an hour off. Because I know they got to go to church. So they'll go to church, and they're out the door, and they're happy, and I'm paying for it. I'm okay with that. And then it lets me wind down, deal with the Gracer Zachin. By 12:30, I'm done. And then I go, and I'm actually 15 minutes early for Mincha. Do you got this? So I could say, God is giving me a gezerah, and it's just like some Shituf gezerah that must be I'm bad and God doesn't want my mincha. Or is God testing you through the Shituf to see if you'll dive into change, get a change, and receive the Hokmah? So then you grow and you work with the Shituf in order that you connect to God, pushing the pieces around. You make it on time, and as you got the wisdom, ostensibly you probably understand Klippa a little better, and you're starting to gain a grasp of Ger a little better, and now that whole Ger-Jew relationship can grow a little bit, and you help change the world. So then the next day, you went to Mr. Rosenzweig here went to Rabbi Katz's class, and since it's in Chicago, and he came back with a T-shirt saying, "I love Ger. I love Ger and I get Ger." Mr. Moshe Rosenzweig wore that T-shirt. And the church guy said, "Wow, great shirt. What does that mean? I love Ger and I get Ger." And he says, "Well, I went to this amazing conference with Rabbi Katz, and we learned about the righteous non-Jew." And the little Shituf guy says, "Wow, so wasn't Jesus talking about the righteous non-Jew too?" And you say, No, that was different. And the guy says, "But the New Testament talks about the God-fearers." And he says, "Yeah, Rabbi Katz was saying that the New Testament, that his students told him that maybe the God-fearers were like ancient Ger." And they say, "That's so interesting. Because, I don't even really believe in the New Testament or Yeshu that much. I kind of consider myself one of the lost God-fearers." And then I say, or Rosenzweig says, "Did you ever think about getting involved in Torah? And to contact Rabbi Katz at getsoulstrong.com?" And they said, "No, what's that?" "Oh, he teaches universal Torah there." And they say, "That's amazing." 30 years later, would you believe that supermarket they changed the name. They call it now I Get Ger. No joke. There's a supermarket in Chicago in 30 years in the future. And they call the name I Get Ger. And Rosenzweig became a world Ger renowned authority. And he learned it by learning how to nullify the Gezerah through prayer and merit, by gaining the wisdom, the Hokmah, to connect to the Eibishter and not be fooled by the Gezerahs of the Kochavim and the Shituf lords. And if it could have been very easy to take the Gezerah on himself from the stars themselves, but Rosenzweig came through and he recognized it's all the hand of Hashem, and if you can make Gerim through turning Shituf away from Shituf and connecting to the one true God of Israel, and which is the real Emunah and Achdus Hashem, all the more so. That's all for this week. Thank you for listening. I hope you could palate my little mushal here, but it took a little bit longer than I would have thought. But I think it's a good mushal. Did you guys clap the mushal? Like the mushal? Good mushal? Bad mushal? I think the mushal worked. The mushal is, there are Jews in the world, and there are non-Jews in the world, and some non-Jews are not non-Jews, but they are Ger, and some non-Jews are non-Jews. And there is holiness, and there is Klippa, and there is Noga. And everyone falls somewhere in this spectrum of existence, and there is a God pushing his will through all these different channels of existence. And these channels of existence express God's will with different ratios and variances. Our job is to connect to God and work with the will of God. Sometimes it is a Gezerah. Sometimes God wants our prayers and merit to change the Gezerah. Your job is to not believe in fantasy, but to connect to reality. And don't assume that the Big Dipper will rearrange its stars to speak to you on its own behalf, because that didn't happen. Number one, because that's not how Shituf works. That's not even Avodah Zarah. That's plain insanity. But if there is a true phenomenon through the emanations of this world, then it came from God to give you a message. Your job is to connect to God, disregard the shock factor of the Shituf agent sending you the message. Again, as I explained all of this, obviously Klippa worships the Shituf channels. So if there's a pastor who is working the Shituf, then it's easy to worship the pastor, right? If you're getting a Shituf message, just worship the Shituf. Judaism is about understanding there is Shituf in the world. The B'nai Noach Noahites are allowed Shituf. but we have a greater mission to ignore the Shituf and go directly to God. The Gerim go directly to God, and we can change the universe and make Gerim by shifting the Shituf channels from worshippers of Shituf into worshippers of God. Let the true Shituf agencies work their channels, i.e. the good angels in the upper worlds. We don't need to sanctify Klippa in this world, and our job is to repair the Malchus of El Shaddai in the world, as we say in the Leinu and the Adon Olam prayers, and that is what we have to say. So connect to the one true God of Israel, understand what Shituf is in truth and in reality, and what it is not in reality, i.e. don't buy into its fiction. Help people connect to the truth, and as the Gezeras come down, learn how to handle God with wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. To connect to God, change the Gezeras, dismantle Avodah Zarah and Shituf, and make God one and great in this world. Thank you for listening. Be well, and God willing, see you on Thursday. Thank you.